Right, so I thought I'd do a second podcast. I don't remember where I left off in the last one, but I know I was starting to talk about flat Earth, 9/11 and false flags, and the fact that you don't know who to believe. That's the main crux of the problem that I have with any of this. And obviously, when you talk to people about these things, their instant argument is, why shouldn't you believe the government? But then I think the thing is, you've got to look around you and see how we're living. People, I think, don't seem to realise that, and this is something that I mentioned a lot in my poems recently, or the last few years, is the fact that everything we do is choice. You know, we've chosen to live like this. You know, if you believe in God, as I do, then God gave us free will. A lot of people blame God for, children dying young and etc. And I know this is because of misunderstanding and the fact that God knows everything that's going to happen from Alpha to Omega, from the beginning to the end. But there are things that are in between that are left to us. But the main thing, the reason why children die isn't anything to do with God. God gave us free will and then will judge us afterwards, if that's how it is, if that understanding is correct. But the fact is, the reason children die is because of us. It's not because of God. God gave us everything. God gave, if a child's dying of malnutrition in Africa, if that's the example, or of some condition, all of these things, or at least a lot of the things so far, have been cured. These diseases that people are dying of unnecessarily, that we have cures in this country or in the West, and yet we give them out, when and if, or by charging them money, or it's through pharmaceutical companies. So when you ask that question, a lot of people often say that is, God's so bad, he lets people die, all these young children and wars and things. Wait a minute, stop ascribing God these faults. It's nothing to do with God, it's to do with man. We're the ones who are given free will. We could live any way we choose to live, but we choose to live this way, where money is the most important thing. And I don't understand how people don't see that. I think people are waking up to it, but it's like a game of Monopoly. It's like or Game of Life, I suppose, is the better example. That's exactly how it is. I remember when I was young, I used to record these radio programs with my sister. We had this company, was it AMP or GMP or the GMP Empire or whatever it was, the Maguire Empire. And we used to record all these different radio programs, and I was doing it as if I was actually running a real company. And then I realised one day, wait a minute, this isn't real. And I felt my achievement felt less, but I was just a child, isn't it? But I was realising that, I'm just pretending, I'm just playing. This isn't a real company. Only my family are listening to these things. And then, years later, I'm realising that, wait a minute, that example is exactly the same as what we're doing here. This is exactly what we're doing. It has no more validity than that. We've chosen that we're going to have run the country, we're going to run it, the world, we're going to run it, that money is the most important thing, and that everyone should strive to make as much money as possible, and that everything should be bartered on money. If your child is dying because you don't have insurance, well, that's because of money. If people are dying in countries because of famine or because of polio or something like that, that's because of money, because all these things we have solutions for these. There's enough food on the planet for everyone. I think and this is, I think, the thing that Flat Earth wakes you up to, maybe more so than 9/11 and things like that, is the perception of how you see things, or how you believe you see things, how you've been taught to see things, and how they might not necessarily need to be that way. It just makes me wonder that why we all choose. I guess the thing is, we just think, there's nothing we can do, we're just one person, or nothing's ever going to change, because nothing in my lifetime has ever changed. It's only got worse. If you look at the housing situation, or the very less help the government and council gives people. Just, they believe you can survive on like £100 or whatever stupid amount it is. I mean, you couldn't even rent something with the money that they give you, let alone eat and have heating and all the other things that you actually need to live. But I don't understand how they get away with bringing out these figures that are absolutely ludicrous and then trying to confuse you with calculations. And yet, I think the main thing is that we don't stand up for our rights, for the fact that this is the only life that we have to live on this planet, and that we're accepting the way that our forefathers and people before it have decided this is the way it has to be, and that we all have to stay in line for that. Because if we don't have that, there'd be anarchy, there'd be chaos, that this is the only possible way. It's very disheartening when you think of all the people that have died unnecessarily because we all choose, I was going to say live the easier life, because to stand up and to struggle is the thing is like, and there's another thing when you think of one of the arguments I mentioned about flat earth, that it comes up, all this kind of stuff when you listen to stuff on YouTube, is that there's more of us than them, and yet we don't make the difference. And I think that part of that is because we're always worried about if you kick a hornet's nest, you're going to get stung, and that is the way. That's how they keep you in your place. Whenever you have to moan to someone, is always like, oh no. Even if you're telling the truth, it doesn't matter. You're telling the truth. They don't want to hear it, or they don't want to do anything. And we can see that through the all the scandals that are coming out now in Hollywood and child abuse and all that kind of stuff. And people, I think, use all that stuff also to keep people in their position, in their place, I should say. But anyway, so the main thing was that I've been listening to recently has been Flat Earth, as I said, and it was interesting to see how a lot of the things I believe might not necessarily be true. The fact that gravity being a theory, I didn't realise that. I thought it was a fact. The horizon always being level, never really seeing any pictures of curvature, no matter how high people seem to go up, unless they have a GoPro or a lens that is fisheye lens. It's just it leaves you in confusion of not knowing, and maybe this is why a lot of people don't want to think about these things. A lot of people, they don't. I remember when I used to talk about religion to people, and they would say, I think it's true what you're saying, but I just don't want to live like that. It just, so truth matters nothing to a lot of people. They just want, like I say, the easy life, just to continue this way, even if there might be a better life that they could have had, that everyone could have if they just strived. If we all strived, if we all decided, no, we're not going to live so rich people can just be rich. The 1% of the population can enjoy everything they ever want, and the other 99% have to struggle and beg for, if you believe in God, that everything here is for you. And yet these 1% have put price tags on everything and can control everything about you. If you want to go somewhere, they can ban you, or they can take your passport away, or you have to apply to go to a different place, despite it all being given to you freely from God, if you believe that. And if you don't believe in God, then everything's free anyway, because it was all there. Who decides? Why should we, cut up pieces of land and say this is yours and this is yours? And then, it's all about control. It's really about those 1% controlling the 99%, and we just go along with it like sheep. And any of those that do stand up get knocked down. or just get ridiculed. That's the easiest way, you know, just ridicule people. Oh, you heard that on YouTube? Wait a minute, I can hear Sky News on YouTube. That doesn't mean, you know, does it? Or, oh, just because it's not a three-lettered organisation, I can't believe in it. Do you know how many times these three-letter organisations have lied? I mean, look at the issue with Russia at the moment. I mean, it seems very, very suspicious what's going on. You know, the fact that, you know, if you wanted to solve a problem, you would do it in the most amicable way, wouldn't you? Especially if it's something major. No, you just threaten people. You just threaten each other until, I mean, I just wonder, like, are they actually all doing it on purpose, just that they don't care? They just want us to feel fear so that we're afraid of going out. Because if they were actually sensible, grown-up adults, which all politicians are meant to be, but if you ever see them debate, it doesn't look like it, that they would, you know, agree, okay, yeah, there's this nerve agent, yeah, let me send you a sample so you can check it as well. Oh, no, I'm not going to send you the sample because we're giving it to someone who's independent. Independent of who? I'm sure this organisation, it was set up by someone in the UK or someone in the US. That's not very independent, is it? And where's their money coming to set up this organisation? There's no such thing as independent. Come on. We've seen whitewashes so many times through the Iraq War and through other incidents that have happened to know that when they start saying about independent, no. I'm sorry, if you really want to be independent, you could send a sample to Russia and let them test it. But of course, the thing is the minute that Salisbury incident happened, they started with Russia. The first sentence was Russia, the media. And of course the government can say, oh no, we never said anything, that was the media. But it was put in people's heads from the very beginning that it was Russia. Before, I mean, it was like, if you went and killed someone, you know, they mentioned the name of the person they suspected of doing the killing before even the trial started. I mean, what kind of... And then they start talking about, no, as a government we want to follow the letter of the law, and we want, you know, we do things like that here. You know, bullshit. I mean, you haven't, have you? Because you, but of course they can, like, they haven't said it, isn't it? It's the media that said it. But I mean, we all know that where the media gets their information from, and we don't know how. I mean, when you watch some of these journalists, you wonder, why are they backing these things so much? As if, why do they care so much about these things? Why have they got such allegiance? And when you talk about, you know, was it the McCarthy trials or whichever it was, where they asked, was it the head of the CIA or the FBI, do you have journalists in print media? And I think he said yes to that. And then they asked about TV media, and he didn't want to answer. So the thing is investigating things like Flat Earth and 9/11 and all these other false flags or conspiracies makes you open to understanding, do you really know everything? Is everything you know the truth? I mean, even like when you go back to history, you know, people talk about that a lot, about history not being fabricated. I mean, we all know that certain parts have already been fabricated, and that we all know that history is written by the victor. So how do we know how much of this history is actually factually accurate? You know, when you talk about things like dinosaurs or how long we've been on this planet as a civilization, I mean, we're relying on the fact that people before us have written this stuff down, and how do we know their intention? Because the problem is, it's easier just to say, no, people are good, you know, why would they lie, and just believe things that way. But we don't know that, isn't it? That's the problem. We don't know, like, I have to believe everything that happened before based on what I've been told and what I've read in books and seen on TV. There's no way I can prove it for myself. But the thing is, I think sometimes people... The thing is with me, I think the best place is to be, you don't know. I mean, that's the truth, isn't it? I don't know. I can't 100% say that what I've read in a book or what I've been told is true, because I have no facility to find those things out. I can't go and get a fossil and say, yeah, that's from 1,000 years ago. I don't even know even if that science is accurate. to say that that's even possible. How can you really tell how old a thing is? I mean, I know there's scientific processes, but are those scientific processes foolproof? Are they, you know, I mean, I don't have enough science to know that, and most people will argue that yeah, it's true, and they don't have enough science to argue it either. But it's just because they believe 100% and they don't want to not believe. But the fact of the matter is, unless you have enough knowledge to make that kind of answer to that argument, you should be, I don't know. But people don't like being, I don't know. So that's the problem, isn't it? Because you think, oh, well, if you don't know, I mean, that somehow makes you unintelligent, or makes you on the fence, or not making a decision of where you are. But it may actually be that it's factually accurate and true. You know, like when you go to, I didn't know this, when you go to a museum, I mean, I've been in a natural history museum and seen that dinosaur. I thought it was the real dinosaur bones, only to find out they're not the real dinosaur bones. But they never tell anyone that. They don't put a big sign up saying this is a fabrication, this isn't actually the actual bones of a dinosaur. There's a lot of that I'm now learning through going through this process of listening about what flat earthers seem to know. A lot of what we know is not 100% true. There's a lot of guesswork in there. There's a lot of not facts, to put it badly. You know, I mean, most people would have thought when they saw that dinosaur in Natural History Museum, it was a real dinosaur, bones. But no, it's not. I expect, like, if I say that, if people listen to this, they're probably going to say, no, that's wrong. They are real dinosaur bones. But if you go and Google it, you can find out, because they mentioned it recently that they're going to transport it. And that's what I was thinking. They're going to transport this dinosaur of 1 million years old or whatever around different places. Isn't that, you know, and I mean, I never even thought about how do these bones not degrade in. But that's what I mean. There's a lot of these things. And that's what makes you wonder, why are there so many of these things that I don't really know? You know, that I've been taught, you know, 10% of something, or a certain most important part has been left out, like they're not real, or that gravity is a theory. You know, a lot of science is based on theory, is not factual. So I suppose, like, the argument I can think of off my head is that maybe it's because it's impossible to prove, you know, based on their assumptions of how you prove something to be scientific. But that, of course, should leave the window open to knowing that, well, you don't really know then, do you? You can't really prove it based on how you go about proving things scientifically. But of course, it'd be a lot easier just to say, no, they're right, they know more than me. So who am I to question the great scientists? But I guess the answer is that I'm me. I'm just as equal and important as you. We were all born here equal, and we all have importance to each other, and we all want to live a life where we're not lied to. But I think the problem is you can't blame the people before, because everyone has been indoctrinated in this way of how we believe, because it makes things easier to believe like this, rather than actually, you know, or only we're going to put things down that are 100% true. There's probably nothing left. But yeah, it's interesting, I should say. So the other thing with flat Earth was the, you know, never seeing any curvature, horizon being level, water being flat. I mean, the thing is, I've always wondered, because when you get the pictures of the Earth, you know, it looks like a globe, and you know, then you're thinking about we're inside. You know, that globe is actually the atmosphere, isn't it? And then inside is what they believe is the crust, and on that ball crust. Oh no, actually it's not the crust, is it? Because is it the crust, the core or whatever? Then it's water around it, and then it's the continents stuck to it. But yeah, it always did seem a bit weird like that. I mean, it does make more sense being flat, especially when all the maps you see, the weather maps and all, they're always flat and things, and But I guess the thing that always makes me wonder about the flat earth, the problem I always have with it, and maybe this is the problem with all conspiracies, is the fact that how many people have to be kept quiet, how many people have to be involved, how many people know the truth. I mean, a lot of people, maybe they don't like me. I mean, I don't, until someone said to me, until I saw on YouTube that, the earth's flat, and, gave all these different proofs, like you don't see curvature, and you can, some of the scientific methods to prove the earth around fall because of technology, like you can see with the camera, a ship falling over the curvature is no longer falling over the curvature, it's just your eyes can't see past a certain distance, and your eyes tend to go, in the distance things tend to go down like that. So that's just an optical illusion, as it were. And so that also means you can't trust your eyes that much either. So the thing is, like, until I was made aware, I didn't actually ever think, despite obviously seeing these things, like I was born in Portsmouth, so I saw the sea, I saw the horizon, but I never sort of thought, well, that's straight, that means the earth must be flat, and whatever. So then I'm thinking, like, people maybe like pilots or whatever, they just don't think about it, because like obviously the thing is, like, why aren't pilots dipping down if they're going around a curve, and if they're going over a long distance? You would have thought they'd have to dip down every so often to make sure they stay around the ball, and then obviously you come up with gravity pulls them down, but of course gravity is a theory, so it's good when that comes out just to prove something, but it's not actually proven itself. A little bit worrying when you have to use something that's not proven to prove something. But yeah, I suppose a lot of us, we don't really think about things until we're made aware of them, and then suddenly we think, and this happens a lot of times, isn't it? We know that as humans, there's a lot of times someone will come up and state something that you've seen, and you'll think, wow, how did I never see that? So that's part of the human conditioning, isn't it? It's only when you're made aware that you do start to see certain things. So maybe that is, so part of the people are not aware of them because of their mindset. But what about all the people that do 100% know if the earth is flat? Like, astronauts, if there are such things, or presidents. Or maybe they're swayed by the pictures as well. It just seems like too much to believe that this lie can be kept for this long by this many people, all these different things. But then, I don't know, that's the problem with it, isn't it? Because it's not impossible, is it? We do know that people come out, whistleblowers and whatever, and then they get neutralized. So if you wanted to keep something so badly, I mean, we fought, and like the Iraq War was a completely illegal war, but that happened. And it was only like, it wasn't everyone that was against it. So that's the problem that I'm at, that there's no way I can prove whether people are hiding this or not, and there's no way I can prove what's true and what's not. I mean, it's a shame really that we live like that we have to wonder whether things, I mean, that, I guess that's the great problem, is that there is no trust, because organisations we know are swayed by money, by power. Like people say, well, why would NASA do this? They get how many billions every year, that's why they would do this. Because that's the honest truth of how we live our lives, that everything is about money, and we will do anything for money. We know that. People do lie for money. Wars have been fought over money and land and power. Most of them have been, and even though they're disguised as moral victories or moral crusades, to badly juxtapose those two words, often, it's about power and money. So all these other things may just be about power and money. I guess the question I'm asking is us living our lives how much truth do we really know? Anyway, that's enough from me. If you want to check out my poems and other stuff, you can find it on YouTube under John Doyle Poems. I'm also on other social media under John Doyle Poems or H.G. Maguire or The English Poet. Okay, take care, take it easy, God bless and peace.